in Baltimore and in Minnesota, all of our WNST programming here, brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to being the best at everything they do. They are our new sponsor as well as our presenting sponsor from all Super Bowl 52 coverage. Also brought to you by Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast, that tasty coffee. Told my wife to bring me some fried chicken out here because I can't get any Rofo at the mall. And bring the mobile app as well. We'll get some points as well on that on the gas around the corner. This guy is, I'm looking at the card here, and it says Director of Fan Experience. And, man, if we got something going on in Baltimore with the Steve Bisciotti press conference on Friday, it is cranky fans and fans' interest not just in the game, in the league, television, revenue, sponsorship, all of that. That makes the league what it is. It makes the Super Bowl what it is, where whatever 9 in 10 Americans are going to watch the Super Bowl or whatever that number is. But you really sort of dive into the numbers of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we do. You know, this is our fifth annual Burson Marsteller, our agency, which I work for.
We books a lot of our guests here, by the way.
Yes, we do, and you are always fantastic too with the talent that we bring on. So thank you so much.
You are the director of fantasy, Chris Console. So for you, with putting together these questions, this is really where you do take. Well, what does the impact mean to a deodorant or to a beer or to my Howard Bank friends, right?
Yeah.
We're always trying to measure that. We're trying to measure that in the media business all the time.
So Fan Experience, which is our sports and entertainment specialty at Burson Marsteller, and we work in conjunction with our partner PSB. It really provides the insight in terms of the data on what fans are thinking. So this is the 5th year that we've done it. And we're still uncovering surprising insights because ultimately it relates back to, who are the league targeting? Who are they going after for their advertisers, for their marketers? Where are the categories where there could potentially be some impact as well? And then for that matter, which we've seen really over the years change dramatically, is how people, again, are consuming the game in and of itself. And for that matter,
right here.
Exactly.
Football on my phone, just like Peyton Manning.
But I'll tell you what, they're consuming it more as a news device, not necessarily yet in terms of a streaming service. In terms of
people don't want to watch the game on their phone.
It's a smaller screen. You'd rather watch it. You'd rather watch the game on a big screen.
And if I were a 20-year-old kid that never knew, one of those big bubble TVs that were $4,000,
sure.
You know what I mean? Everyone's used to big screens now. They're everywhere.
And one of the things which was surprising to us is not so much that people are using social media, but the form in which they're doing it. One thing which we uncovered, Facebook actually, which was a little bit surprising to us, it's 53% of people plan to use Facebook to be able to have a dialogue about the Super Bowl. And sometimes we feel, and look, and Twitter and Instagram, of course, are being used, but I think with Facebook, it's really diving back in to your communities, your family, your friends, you're posting, you're putting pictures. I think that there's a little bit, there's a little bit more of continuity. And it was a little bit surprising because I think with a lot of rapid response and reaction, we hear so much about Twitter, when in fact people are actually going to their Facebook page and commenting on that as well. The other thing which was very interesting, and it goes back to how people are actually watching the game in and of itself. We actually learned this year that about 2/3 of those that were surveyed, they said that they would not be hosting or attending what's considered a Super Bowl party, while most of them, they actually prefer to watch it with people who care about the game. So you would think that with the Super Bowl,
I think parties were bigger 15 years ago.
I think they were too. I think that the atmosphere perhaps maybe in bars and just going to larger gatherings, I think you have a collective group of people that really want to be able to watch the game. And I think you get distracted. Mm-hmm. I think that you, for the lack of a better term, if you go to a bar, you could have obnoxious people that are distracting your experience. And
you're not going to hear the commercials.
And you're not going to hear the commercials. Although a lot of bars, what they've done is they will pipe up to try, because that's what people want to watch. So it's like they don't want to lose out on business and revenue because they want to stay home and watch the commercials because they want to see it live. But they really want to be around the people that they know, their family, their friends, their inner circle of people.
Chris Console here from Burson Marsteller, and they provide a bunch of guests, but they also do a bunch of research. Millennials are different than us, right? I mean, this one thing we always learn about this, and I think for the Ravens, and Luke, this is something Steve Bisciotti is going to have to deal with. How are they going to get 15, 20, 25-year-old people to go to football games, not just now, but over the next 10 or 15 years? I mean, To me, that's the biggest issue for the league is where are the 20-year-olds, and are they going to be willing to pay $150 or $200 to go to a football game 10 years from now?
Well, and it's not just that. To me, it's the making the commitment to have season tickets to buy PSLs. I think plenty of younger people want to go to games. I don't think those people want to be locked into going to all 10 games. I think it's and that's where you get into the secondary market.
Well, I mean, for 20 years, it's been church in our market, right? I mean, it's literally you have tickets, you have tailgate, you go with your family, you go with your friends, you go with whoever, you sit with the same people. That's now busting up where we are after
we have shorter attention spans. You know, I mean, the Ravens, if they're 13-3, yeah, people are going to be all in, and they'll say they'll want to go to all games. If they're just okay, they might only want to go to 3 or 4 games as opposed to having season tickets that it's going to be thousands of dollars.
Well, we had Ross Tucker here earlier, and, he said some interesting things about the Ravens fan base being this unique top 5 and all of that. With where we are now with the empty seats and stuff, they're going to have to be moved by someone else. And the Ravens have had something that not a lot of other clubs have had. They've had that continuity. And a lot of these other places, they've never had a sellout to know from fans coming. Other teams are always working to get fans, right?
Yes.
Because they've had empty seats the whole time.
Sure.
So I think there's a different kind of franchise when you're the Tampa Bay Bucks and you're constantly, or the Miami Dolphins, you're constantly trying to win over fans, as opposed to maybe Steelers, Ravens, Giants, pick a couple places where it's always kind of the same people, and their kids have taken those seats, and their kids love the game and want to go to the game as much as the older generation did.
Well, I think, what's interesting, too, with and this is I think where teams are in a bit of a quandary because they obviously need to sell tickets. But at the same time, I think also it is going to be they have to rely also on the television, the social media, all the different packages to get kids following the game as well.
Well, that only happens when you win, too, because your team's no good in November.
Correct.
The casual watcher's gone.
We say this all the time. You can whether you're winning or losing, the fan experience at a game is critical and it's important.
Sure.
Despite that. But when you're not winning, you could do all the different dog and pony shows that you want. If you're not winning, you're likely not going to get people that are going to invest the money to go to the game.
Well, the hot dog races on the screen for the Orioles this year will be, you know what I mean? I mean, that's all you got to sell.
I love that.
When you're not, well, and I did talk to people, the fan experience that you talk about, which is baseball versus football. People go to football games to go to a football game. Go to a baseball game to take their kids for a day out, to play some catch, to do the hot dog races. People go to football games. They're not there about all of the rest of that,
right.
The kiss cam and all. They really are watching the game more.
But they're also into what's happening with their fantasy football team.
Right.
And I think that absolutely is relevant. It's not in the same way that you think of baseball with all the half inning, in between inning sideshow stuff, which started in minor league baseball decades ago. But I do think for NFL fans who are into fantasy football or daily fantasy, whatever you want to talk about, there is something there that, hey, I'm all in for the Ravens or whatever market it is, but if I'm going to go to a game, I don't want to be on my phone not being able to check scores because the Wi-Fi in the stadium's non-existent. Or, I do think that is a piece that a lot of teams have thought about it from a place of being, well, they're there to watch football. Yes, they are, but there are also some other things that they want to have with that, I think, in this
I find the social part of this interesting because I do sit in the stands with my phone the first half. I go down the press box, end of the game with him, and I don't monitor what other people are saying on Twitter and Facebook, maybe as much as you do because he has TweetDeck up or whatever. But if I'm just a regular guy in the stands paying $150 to go to the game, part of that experience that you talk about with Facebook and interacting, that I don't get to hear what my cousin Vinny is saying about that play or this play if I'm at the game, or if I'm home. And I've been doing this 27 years. I remember when this box became the companion about 10 years ago, where you started to watch the game with your browser open, so that you could either get more information or you could yell and scream or interact and high-five your buddies without having to watch the game with them. That is a completely new thing over the last 10 years, and I don't think that anybody really has a lot of research into where that thing is going, because when we first started, we had a thing called Cover It Live. It was a software package that we promoted on the radio back in 06, 07, 08, which was watch the game with our hosts, watch the game with us tonight. We're going to have a chat. And then Twitter came in, and Twitter's like the biggest chat there is, but you really can't do that at a football game with gloves on. You know what I mean? You do lose the ability to.
They do have the tweet gloves now. Those have become very popular. But I still can't do it though.
I know. I have them too. That you want that interaction with your friends. You can't do that from inside the stadium. To your point.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's missing from that.
Yeah, one of the things also which we dove into as part of this survey, and we wrestled whether or not we actually wanted to include it, but we try to also tie in things that are topical around the NFL season that then carry on to, say, if you're watching the Super Bowl. And one of the biggest topics, obviously, this year was around the protest, the political protest.
We're familiar with that.
It was very interesting. Well, I don't even want to say it was. I think part of it also could be maybe not a little bit of fatigue around the issue. I think, obviously, no matter where you stand in terms of the side, people are going to be passionate about it. But perhaps we found that maybe people were a little bit more fatigued because roughly 2/3 of the ones that we surveyed as part of this Bursa Marsteller Fan Experience survey, that they would not, they would look at it where 63% didn't think that the Super Bowl was the proper place to send a political message. Now, if you looked at data, now we didn't poll, but other different agencies and companies that were out there that kind of polled the statistics, we were a little bit surprised because we thought that perhaps there might be some that would be like a little bit more towards the players. This, though, shied away and was, look, this is not the appropriate time. It's the Super Bowl. This isn't the necessary form to be sending those messages. It surprised us a little bit when we looked.
Well, you got people's attention here this week, that's for sure. Chris Console joining us. Is your survey online? Can people go check it out? Is there a Twitter, Facebook place to find it?
It is, yes. Actually, if you go to bursanmarsteller.com.
BURSON-MARSTELLER.
Yep, there'll be a link that'll take you to our survey. We also produced a pretty interesting infographic that kind of boils out some of the different data, everything from watching habits to, again, you talked about in terms of categories. Maybe it's surprising or not, but wings are the ultimate thing to have at your Super Bowl party.
What's this
wings
virtual
are trending,
reality thing here, man? You can watch the Super Bowl in virtual reality?
It's becoming more with different VR
I
with different
watch
VR headsets.
The Super Bowl in virtual reality.
Yeah, that to me that'll be a very interesting. It's not quite as mainstream yet, but virtual reality, and we did this actually in our 4th annual survey. It is on the rise. I mean, you talk about experiences. For those that are sitting at home, you're in it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really interesting once they get this a bit more mainstream. It's just not there yet.
Along those lines, and I'm glad you brought this up because it just came to my mind, what kind of feedback are you getting as far as more customizable viewing experiences? Like some of the Thursday night games, they use the overhead shot cam.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things for some people who are more all about the football, like the all-22 look is the one that they want to see. I think a customizable presentation where you can watch it and you can even, it's almost like you're the producer.
It's your producer, right?
Where I think, along with virtual reality, to me, if the NFL truly wants to keep millennials and young people, it's more about how much control can you give them as far as the experience. And we're seeing that even on television. ESPN had 8 different broadcasts of the national championship game in college football. So I think that's something that, for someone who's not 20 years old anymore, but still younger and more technically inclined as far as some of the different forums, I think that's something that is really exciting.
No, I think you're right, and that's something that we jumped into last year on our survey, and we definitely saw that people's interest in being able to, for all intents and purposes, like you said, kind of be your own producer. What is your viewing preference? I think, and I don't know this, but I do think that this is something that the networks, that the league, and for that matter also really the providers, the cable providers, the software providers, because ultimately it is going to come down to a software thing, where you could ultimately on your remote control potentially adjust
I want to sit
the
in the
different
end zone. I want to sit on the
that
field.
you're doing.
Right, yeah, sure.
But to me, and this is more personal than anything that we did, I think that will be a tremendous advantage to the league in terms of the viewership. But then it goes back to, is that potentially drawing people away from actually attending the game? Because when you think about it, depending on where you're sitting, you could also get up in a stadium.
Well,
now, you may not be
Good.
sitting,
TV's
but
already
you could
too
be walking
good.
around.
They've made the experience too easy, too good,
Climate
too HD.
controlled,
the whole
food,
deal.
beer,
the whole deal.
drinks, everything.
Yeah. Well, good to have you aboard. You guys come over. You always learn something here.
Thanks for having
Burson
us.
Marsteller, he is Chris Console, the director of fan experience. Our experience here is all brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to being the best at everything they do. Also, Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. Go fill up, go get some coffee, bring me some fried chicken, and the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel Racetrack this weekend. Entries will now be found in the WNST Morning Newspaper. Of course, that's brought to you by Planet Fitness. We're live at Radio Row, Super Bowl 52. The Ray Lewis bus on sale now out on the website under the Road Trips tab. You can also send me an email, nasty@WNST.net. I won't answer till I get back on Monday. I'm at the freaking Super Bowl, right, Luke?
You are.
Right. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.